Hey, Jen, how are you? Like August, but it took a long time to go through the process.
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
just
but-
got approved for this probationary period, but with those guys working until like.
I know,
9 o'clock at night.
geez, I know it. That is, it's something.
Who would think they'd
They're
do
putting a
that?
lot of hours in there.
Oh,
Man.
Now they're gonna have more with the kids that are going out, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's good.
Start the
They got
days
10.
and things like
Yeah,
that.
everybody's ordering them.
Good.
Everybody knows.
Yeah.
We are, let's see, well, we've got a couple minutes yet. I haven't seen you in person in a while. How are you?
Good, how about you?
Good.
Yeah, no, I'm well.
Wow.
Sure you don't surprise. Next time I'll get you.
No, that's fine.
Sorry about that.
Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3. Dan Gates is calling,
Yes,
coming in.
that might be him
That
now.
might be him. Okay.
Stacy Joseph is on.
Yes, I see, for our sales tax
Yep.
exemption. Perfect.
Is that 607-343-0878 number you, Dan?
It is Dan Gates, yes.
You could just change the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's coming in. These transcripts are so long.
I'm so glad I don't have to do them anymore.
Oh, yeah.
She got transcriptions.
Let me know.
Oh,
That works out well.
I mean, they were really quite time consuming.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
yeah, but.
Especially worried about accuracy and
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course I didn't want any mistakes, you know.
John yet?
Oh,
There he
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Came in.
I think we're only waiting.
Just kidding.
Cheryl.
Cheryl was
Is she?
tentative.
She was tentative for
Governance.
governance, but then we ended up having those, so.
She
yeah,
confirmed
she's
for
supposed to be
regular?
able to attend these, yeah. And Dan was gonna be here at 6, I thought.
Yeah.
We've got about 2 minutes to spare.
And I'll start the recording right now.
Okay.
Right now, we're live on Facebook, but the recording will start.
Got it. Okay. So that leaves a no. That'll be him. There he
There he
is. Hi there. Happy New Year.
Yeah. those are-
Just how my Christmas
Those
cards
are-
are like, wow, this is true.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't put one on.
Right.
I just couldn't take that one.
Aren't they all?
That's because- Well, if my grandson was older, I.
You don't like your knees at your ears? A
He's
little uncomfortable for you?
Yeah. Plus the other one was up.
Have you been going
And he's too old.
Tonight they got a home game. Yeah, geez, they're 31 in the league. I think they're just
I
around
know.
the edge. Their first place.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. They're playing pretty good. Yeah, they're playing pretty good. I hope get a better crowd.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
Such-
students
such a
coming
nice-
back.
Yeah. hopefully.
Yeah.
Such a nice venue.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Yeah, John, we just want to maybe let Cheryl connect to audio and then we're good to go. There she is.
Cheryl.
Hi, everyone.
So we just, are we all set on the website too? We're good to go, John, when you are.
Sounds good. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Broome County Industrial Development Agency of January 19th, 2022. And I will turn the first part of the meeting over to our attorney, Joe Mayer.
Thank you, John. Good morning all, or good afternoon. I'd ask you all to repeat after me. Are we all set? Everybody's in?
Yep.
Okay. I,
Richard,
okay, most, I guess they know their names.
We're off to a good
Do
start.
solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the
for the
United States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the
and the
State of New York,
Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
that I will faithfully
and that I
discharge
will
the
faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of member of the Broome County Industrial Development Agency
of the office of member of
the
the
office of the Broome County Development Agency,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my
according to
ability.
the best of my ability.
And those who are not present are going to have to get us signed copies of this. We'll provide it out to you.
Yes, and we also did send electronically, annually, we do an acknowledgement of fiduciary duty, so some that are present may have those in your folders, if you could sign and leave with us, and those that are not present, we'll get them to you electronically. Perfect, thank you, Carrie. Okay.
Joe, I'm going to let you continue.
Still
Correct.
Oh, I'm still on, okay.
Joe, we're not paying you extra for this, but go ahead, proceed.
I'm just trying to drag it out. All right, do we have a motion with respect to the nomination of the officers of the agency? We didn't speak to someone about
Yep.
making this?
So we'll start with Chairman.
Yep, for chair, this is Jim Peduto. For chairman, I'd like to nominate John Bernardo.
I think we could do these all as one motion.
Even better.
Okay,
So it's a motion for the slate, is that what you need?
Yeah,
yes. So Vice Chairman next.
Vice Chairman,
I'd like to nominate Jim Peduto to the position of vice chairman.
Secretary,
I'd like to nominate Richard Bucci.
Treasurer.
I'd like to nominate Dan Crocker.
Do we have a second to the slate that has been proposed?
I'll second it. Dan Gates.
Thank you, Dan.
Any discussion?
Is there a salary increase? Is there a cost of living adjustment?
Significant, Mayor, significant.
Favor?
Aye.
Any votes opposed? The slate as presented is hereby elected for the upcoming year.
10% increase.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, that's it.
John, I'm gonna throw it back to you.
Thank you. Looking at the transcript for our December 15th, 2021 meeting, looking for a motion to approve the transcript.
I have a comment on those.
Sure.
Go ahead, Dan.
I noticed that Carrie is no longer assigned the arduous task of doing the transcripts. So are they done by a
We're looking,
audio?
yeah, we're looking right now, that the time involved with the changes to this, we're looking at just a service to do that. It takes a lot of the time off of.
Oh, sure. I know. I agree with that wholeheartedly. That was a huge.
Plus, it's
duty.
mandatory about accuracy.
Right, yeah, so it's,
I noticed in the December transcript, as I was reading through them, I'm thinking, I don't speak like that. And I was noticing, I mean, most of the general audio is correct, but I was looking at the end of it and there was some talk, some of the chairman's talk, and I thought, that doesn't sound right
the
in mine.
voice,
Well, no, just what the transcript said.
okay,
So like in the end of it, it said, it said that I said I have a motion. And I don't speak like that. And there was some stuff that the chairman said, and I went back and looked at the video and
Okay.
listened to it. I mean, I got tinnitus bad, but it's not what was said.
Okay. We will cross-reference that and double check that
Well,
and make
that's-
corrections where needed.
But I
for
think
sure.
that's
I
a good
appreciate
idea
that,
to have,
Yeah.
that was a lot of work, Carrie. And she could
Yeah.
best
All right.
serve otherwise, so.
With that said,
read-
we're gonna hold off on moving forward with approving the transcript until the staff has a chance to take careful note of it.
I mean, it wasn't anything that was pertinent information. It was just idle chit chat, but it wasn't
Got
accurate.
it. Okay. We will
So, I
go
mean,
back
I-
and double check that. Okay.
I mean, I read them all and I approve them, but it was just not.
Let's hold those until the next meeting.
Okay.
We come to the part of our agenda where we have a chance for the public to comment on anything concerning the IDA. If you wish to speak, feel free to introduce yourself, give us a residence, and limit your comments, if you would, please, to 5 minutes. Would anybody like to speak? Moving onward, Executive Director's report. Stacy, updates, please.
Yes, Happy New Year to you all. And we have a busy year ahead, a busy month ahead. So just a few updates for you. One note with just a reminder for the record with the appointment of committees, which is done by our chairman, Chairman Bernardo. We did send that out electronically. The committee assignments, there have been no changes, but I just for the record want to note that committee assignments have been sent to you all electronically and no changes currently for that. So a few updates just to know something that I think goes a little bit unnoticed, but is a useful tool that I think we'd like to make you aware of. On an annual basis, the IDA gets an allocation of private activity bond from New York State's Office of Economic Development. That is based on the Chapter 58, prescribed to Chapters 58 Law of 2020, utilizing the most recent population estimates from the U.S. Bureau of the Census. So on an annual basis, it's typically a 2-year allocation. We'll get an allotment of private activity bond that we can use for eligible projects. We did get our notice for 2022 that our allocation is $7,285,706. So this can be a useful tool as we vet and work with project developers. So I just wanted to put that to your attention, that our annual allocation has been set for 2022. A couple of things coming up on the radar for next week that I want to put to the board's attention as it relates to projects or initiatives that this board has approved. 2 great county partnerships we're working next week with, that's being shepherded through county planning, the Office of Planning with is an announcement on a grant award related to the expansion of the Southern Tier Network. If you recall back in 2021, we provided funds to support the extension of the Southern Tier Network in the urban core. So what this will be is a gap analysis study to identify what parcels, what sites, what buildings, where the gaps are in broadband service. And as we know, this has been a continuing challenge for both business growth and for individuals, especially during COVID. So we're looking forward to participating that in next week. I believe that's on Tuesday. And then the following Thursday, the 27th, we're also working with the county on an announcement related to the COVID Recovery Grant Fund. If you recall, we did participate with the county on an application for community development block grant funds. The county was awarded $1 million in funds to provide grants to small businesses. We're maxing those out at $50,000. The county will be the recipient of the funds through planning. We will be a sub-recipient, and we have established criteria and an application to start getting out to businesses. So we can send that out. We'll distribute the guidelines and the application to the board following today's meeting. So if you know businesses that you think we may want to be talking with after next week, we're ready to go. So we're excited about that. Next week, at the end of February, it did get rescheduled. Myself, Natalie, and Brendan will be attending the annual EDC's annual winter conference. One of the things we're going to be spending close attention on and hope to get more clarification on is changes with regard to the prevailing wage mandate. Joe and we've talked to numerous council at various levels, and there's still not, I'd say, any strong clarification on how we should be moving forward with projects, but certainly as that guidance comes in, we will modify and update our procedures accordingly, but we'll keep you posted on that. And then lastly, I just wanted to bring to your attention, the governor did make her budget address yesterday. And I wanted to just highlight a few things related to economic development that we think were wise ideas. They are continuing a tax credit for small business for COVID-related expenses, which we do think, many of our small businesses are continuing to deal with COVID-related issues. For those in the affordable housing world, they did increase the state low-income housing tax credit aggregate cap growth, which if you're working with LIHTC, I think you probably know better how that will impact, but we know that's an important program. And in addition, some ones that we advocated for was the continuation and expansion of the brownfield cleanup program, which we know has been effective, especially in a lot of our legacy sites here in upstate. And lastly, on the Restore New York program, which we also thought has been an effective program to deal with a vacant and underutilized property. So we were pleased to see from an economic development perspective that those programs have remained. It's also our understanding that the Regional Economic Development Council process will continue for a 12th round. The downtown revitalization project will also continue and I believe potentially expand. And they've also added basically a small city DRI. So one of the things, actually, it was this region that advocated for was for our more rural village centers that they don't have access to potentially the capacity or the amount to, or the ability to allocate as much funds, but that there would be a need for a like program. And they have initiated, I think, what they're calling New York Forward, a small city DRI. So we do think that could help, and we'd love to work with our village centers and our rural population on that. And I think those were the items that I wanted to bring to your attention today. So anything else, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Stacy. Are there any questions for Stacy on our updates? Okay, you've all, I hope, have had a chance to look at our unaudited financial through December 31st, 21. Teresa, thank you. Well done. I don't know if she's on or she's in the room. Needless to say, a very good year, the bulk of which as a result of the 265 closing. Any questions for Stacy relative to the financial statements?
I have a question. Are we classified as a not-for-profit or?
No.
It's
No?
a public
We're public
benefit corporation, so
So
not
that's-
a not
That's
for
all
profit.
something
Yeah.
totally, I just
Yeah.
wonder what happens with, if you have to do anything with all the, I call profits or income, but.
No,
No.
so as a public benefit
It's okay
authority,
to have to make that much.
yes, yeah, we just, we're
There's
just limited
there's
in how we can
limits on
spend it.
how you
how we
can
use
spend it
it,
and
yeah.
disperse it, but.
So you just kind of put it to the side and use it for later on. Okay.
Yeah, and just a note on the financials, on the summary of bank deposits and investments, you'll see the MBT transition account with about roughly $308,000. That has been swept into, we did purchase a new treasury with that. So those funds, that always happens at the end of the month. So they're always reflected on the financials. However, we did reallocate those funds to purchasing a new treasury. And we have begun the audit process within CERO and expect to present that in March. And as well, we'll have NBT come for an annual investment report.
Thank you, Stacy. Any other questions? Moving on with loan activity reports. Anybody have any questions for Natalie? Okay. New business, the 2022 meeting schedule is out, has been shared, I believe, and I'm I'm quite confident an invitation for every one of those meetings was attached. Any questions or comments regarding the proposed schedule? Okay, item number 8, resolution accepting an application from 322 Main Street LLC and authorizing a sales and use tax exemption in an amount not to exceed $2,400, consistent with the policies of the agency in connection with the renovation and equipping of the property and building located at 322 Main Street in the city of Binghamton, Broome County, New York. Stacy?
Yes, is there an issue
There
with
you
the?
go.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's been revised
Yeah.
for 48 meters.
Oh, did
There's a
John not get that?
Revised.
Okay, yes, I have that, but for some reason.
Yikes. You know what? I'm going off the original agenda. My apologies.
Okay, I just want to make sure you have the correct one, John. It was, yeah. So you have one that says 4,800?
Yes, I stand corrected. Insert 48, delete 24. Sorry about that.
Got it. Yes, thank you. Yes, so you have in front of you an application for our small business incentive program or our sales tax exemption program from Josef Birnbaum. He is on the call. Should any members of the board have questions? The project includes renovations of the existing building and site at 322 Main Street in Binghamton, New York, including in-unit interior renovations, repairs, improvements to bathrooms, kitchens, new refinished floors, lighting fixtures, painting, etc. Common space interior renovations include improved electrical and plumbing and new laundry room and storage facilities accessible for tenants. Exterior renovations include removal and replacement of siding and roof, driveway and parking site repair, and addition of bike racks. The result will provide an updated 12-unit marking rate housing apartment complex, improved living facilities and amenities for the tenants. Total project cost on this is roughly $484,000. The eligible exemption on this for sales tax is $4,800. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions for Stacy or the developer? This would otherwise have gone through governance. I guess I'm looking, unless there's objections, I'm looking for a motion to move forward with this resolution.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
I did not hear the second. Was that Dan?
Joe.
Joe, second.
Joe, I'm sorry, Joe. Any comments? Let's take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Item number 9, discussion regarding revised uniform tax exemption policy for the Broome County Industrial Development Agency. Stacy.
Yes, thank you all. So you should have received a copy really of a significantly, at least in the formatting and the look design, I guess you will, of the previous uniform tax exemption policy. I hope that it provides a more straightforward outline of our policy, including the integration of a number of points that the board has made over the course of the last several months. This just a little bit of background. I'm going to give you a quick summary and then happy to answer questions and get into a discussion. Following today's discussion, we would incorporate any additional feedback and then move this toward a approval process. However, in that period of time, also like to get feedback from our municipal partners as we move this forward. So very quickly, just to give you some background, in addition to the feedback and discussions from this board, we also developed this in coordination with National Development Council, and we used templates from the City of Syracuse IDA and the New Rochelle IDA, both of which were different in their formatting. One was significantly more comprehensive and had details that I don't think apply to our community's demographics. But my point being, both were NDC reviewed. So we did have that independent third-party analysis, and we have had this, we are sending this and it's in process of review with NDC. It does place more emphasis on the standard term rather than deviations. I think it strengthens and kind of tightens our process as it relates to how our pilots are developed. and moves things towards what I think what we want is the standard term being the rule rather than the exception. It also sets forth criteria for review for deviations to the standard terms. That was a topic that this board has discussed, quite in detail. But I think this is an important point that the pilots will be developed in-house by IDA in consultation with the developer and the municipality. And where necessary, a third party like an NDC. I think that, and most notably, we would not consider accepting outside proposals. I think that's an important point. The staff has the capacity to develop these pilots. We know where those third-party resources are when needed. But most importantly, we want to do this in partnership with the developer and the municipality, rather than this coming to us and then, having the board maybe, consider something it has not really had its hands on, if you will. It eliminates the accepted practice of approval by municipal resolution. This was a topic we've talked about. Article 18A really does not require that the municipality by resolution sign off on the pilot. Certainly we want the endorsement of the municipality, but we've had a process in which we have waited for our board to deliberate until that's happened. And I think that's caused, maybe some of the confusion or questions from the board. It adds a 10-year, this is brand new. It adds a 10-year and a 20-year standard term for housing projects. As we know, most of what we do, deliberate on now is related to market rate and affordable housing. And as such, I think we've been a little bit behind in not having a standard housing pilot schedule. We did differentiate this by number of units because, those housing projects can run the gamut. You can have small projects. So we've started this at 50 units or below would receive a 10-year standard term, and anything above 50 would be considered for a 20-year pilot schedule. It does define, I think, in more detail, a qualified transferee for pilot benefits. That was also a discussion that's occurred with this board, is what happens when a property is sold. How do we go about doing those transfers? Our process has been historically, not a lot of due diligence per se, but just basically assuming that if the use of the project remains the same, there were really very little prohibitions on transferring the pilot. Not that we want to prohibit it, but I think I've gotten the sense we want to gain more information before we make that decision. It outlines all information required from the applicant at the time of approval, and that would include additional financial details where needed. But I think it's a more straightforward outline of what an applicant would need to do to apply for benefits. It outlines our cost benefit analysis process in greater detail. And then lastly, it outlines our application process inside the UTEP. So, the requirement of the developer seeking substantial benefits from this agency would be required to become quite, very familiar, as we always want them to be. But we've outlined the process inside our UTEP. So with that, I'm happy to get everybody's feedback, questions, comments, concerns.
So aside from the comments that we may hear today, where do we go with this, Stacy? Does this go back to governance to tweak it, or to suggest wholesale changes? Or do we carve out a special meeting where we, you receive all these comments, let's say, between now and whenever, and then we get together as a board and say, this is what we really want? Was that which direction are you going in, prior to us talking with the municipalities and making sure they understand what we have in mind?
I mean, certainly if there's any visible, changes, modifications that are recommended today, we can make those, incorporate those. I think, it would make most sense to run this through governance. It's clearly an issue to me related to governance. So to do a final review, schedule a governance meeting, and, if it makes sense by it.
Yeah, I think,
next month.
I think obviously a lot of work has been done. This is pretty comprehensive. And, and as you noted, it really addressed a lot of the issues raised throughout the process. So I think it's great. And then, yeah, I was going to kind of echo what John was saying is that, like what the next steps are. I mean, we're looking for municipal input, right? And anybody else besides, who do you need to bring into it to?
I mean, to be quite frank, the way the legislation is written, it's up to this body
Okay.
to determine.
So municipal
the
input is
UTEP.
kind of a courtesy.
Absolutely.
Which is fine. Yeah, which is fine. So I was just wondering what kind of timeline are we looking at for that process, do you
It's
think?
whatever, I'd say, to be honest, whatever timeline you all feel comfortable with the language in the UTEP.
So
So,
like you wanted us to finalize it from
Yeah.
our end and then
Yeah.
send it out.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, we could put it on governance again. I think if anybody in the interim has any
Certainly.
changes, they
Yeah.
could submit them to you, but
Mhm.
I can't imagine, I don't want to speak for the governance committee, but I can't imagine significant changes to this from what I can see.
Right, yeah.
So, we could look it over, put our imprimatur on it, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Mhm.
It's my Catholic education comes to it.
And once, once it has been approved by the board, one of the important processes is the notification to all taxing jurisdictions, including, our school districts, our county, local, village, city, et cetera. So the notification is a requirement and a good practice, even if it wasn't a requirement.
Oh, no,
So,
yeah, I think so.
I think it's, what we should do is review if there's anything glaringly omitted from this, or, things you just wanted to have tweaked. We can do that in the next couple of weeks, and we'll target moving this in February. I do think it makes sense to advance an approval on this before right now.
Right.
We have,
For more big projects.
we're not, I do anticipate a few more pilot projects coming forth. So I think, having this ready to go is going to be helpful to our process. And it doesn't preclude, deviations too. I think it just, it just requires a lot more analysis to be done. And I think sort of sequences things in the way they should have been sequenced.
May I make a suggestion?
Of course.
Governance, maybe, and I hate to put you guys through this, but maybe governance has a special meeting soon. Weighs in. We all present our comments to you. We can send you an email if we don't like this or don't understand that. And then the board has a look at what appears to be the final document. But before we bless the document, I would like it sent out to the municipalities so that they're cognizant of what we're going to be voting on, and recognizing that it's our authority to do what we're going to do. But I want them to see it in advance with an invitation from you, Stacy. You'd be happy to explain it, and maybe even set up a Zoom call to explain how this is going to work going forward. That's my suggestion.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Yeah, we could set up a special meeting to keep it moving. And then Joe.
Yeah, no, I just a couple of questions. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, all right. Just so I understand this, right, Stacy, this less than 50 units, is that multiple units, or is it housing? Housing development, if a guy wants to build 20 houses in a development, is that?
Yeah, you bring up a question I know that we've discussed over the course of the last couple of years. And I did check on that with our bond counsel with Harris Beach on exactly what you're asking. We are within authority to provide a benefit such as a housing, a new,
Okay. I think it's good.
Yeah.
So is that the purpose of having this in the schedule? So if a guy is looking to do a housing development, say, look, here's this.
It's funny, it wasn't, but I think it serves that purpose.
Yeah,
And I was
well,
gonna
yeah, when I
actually
was looking at it.
suggest, because somebody brought that
Yeah,
up to me
exciting.
recently, a local business person said, we really need to address the new housing starts issue. And I said, we've had some conversations and looking at mechanics. I think it's a more detailed conversation we should have as a body, but there is a mechanism. I did confirm that we are within our authority to do something. I think it just has to be this group to decide what it would want to do. And the other reason for the differentiation is, the price points, the cost, things can vary so much from, a 15 to 20 unit project to a,
Yeah, sure.
100 plus. The only instances where I would see a longer term pilot being, required, and there may be those, and as long as we can prove that with a financial analysis, we can do that. But often with affordable housing projects, it might be linked into their mortgage requirements. So there will be nuance to that, but at least it sets a benchmark for where to
Yeah.
begin, in
No,
my
I
estimation.
think it's great. Now, you said, I think you spoke with the Syracuse, Newburgh.
New Rochelle,
New
yeah.
Rochelle. So do they have in their schedule, this for housing units?
They do have, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
and that was
Okay.
that was a clear recommendation from NDC that we
Oh,
include a
good.
housing pilot
Okay.
program, a standard, I
And-
should say.
Joe, to be clear, I will add a heading on that says housing, because I see where it maybe can.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. if it was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
part, you know.
So I'll make,
multiple
yeah,
unit
I'll make the
housing.
heading
Yeah,
say housing.
Because when I looked at that, I was thinking, if this is intended for new home building, this is great, because this is what a lot of people have been asking for.
Yeah.
Number two, what I call the clawback schedule, recapture schedule. Did we come up with that, or is that what these other areas? are using,
We've
or-
all, most all the IDAs, have a recapture or
Yeah.
clawback policy.
Yeah.
Ours, we've actually not ever included it in there, but I think it's important to include it on our appendix A, to demonstrate what that
What it is.
implication
Okay.
is. So we did, so we've always outlined a recapture benefit in our UTEP. This small table that's inside the content of the UTEP, we did strengthen that about, I think in 20, I want to say maybe 19. We really only had up to 3 years. So if you were, if you were only after 3 years, you could have a 30-year pilot, and after 3 years be non-compliant. We didn't really have a strong mechanism in which we could recapture. So we have strengthened that prior to this, which I think is important. When we've also identified, which I think we did in the previous, those trigger events for a recapture. So I think we've just made it more detailed and, and more black and white.
Well, kudos to you, because this is when I saw this, I was excited, because it just answers a lot of stuff that we see.
Yeah, no, it does. And
So,
it's
there it is.
it's more concise and it's orderly, like you said, it's a much,
Cleaner.
Yeah,
Yeah, I found our
document.
previous one a little bit challenging to follow sometimes myself. So, yeah, I wanted to clean that up for.
well, the one thing you said too was like, there's a standard term now. And, not through any fault of this board, but I think for a long time, the deviated term seemed to be the norm. I mean, people just came in, with the anticipation of just going right for the deviated term, where I think sometimes whether they needed it or not. And I think by doing it this way, you have to really kind of defend
Yeah,
the deviated term,
deviation.
so.
Agreed.
So anyways, back to what John was saying, I guess we could schedule a special meeting, then any other board members could put input into it. Then we finalize it. And before it comes to the full board, we would want to send it out to the municipalities.
Absolutely, for
So,
feedback and
okay.
request feedback. And then once final draft is approved, then we would,
it
then
back
we
to-
would do a
to the full
notification
board.
to all taxing jurisdictions, and happy to do a kind of more of a slide deck or a Zoom
Okay.
to make it,
All right.
maybe.
Okay, that sounds like a plan.
Sure.
Great idea.
Good.
Thank you. Executive session, are we going into executive session, Stacy?
Currently have any items?
Okay, moving forward, any old business?
Yeah, I haven't gotten.
Okay.
Sorry, John.
Plus, it's pretty straightforward anyway.
Yeah.
I'll take that as a no. I'm looking for a motion.
Well,
looking for a
card game
motion
there,
to
John.
adjourn this
No problem.
meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Jim Peduto and Dan Gates. All those in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Very good. Moving onward. We are adjourned from the IDA meeting.